Afternoon and good night, wherever you are in the world. We are live here on Cloudways Central. We need like a really cool animated introduction. So guys at the Cloudways team, if we have a video person to create an amazing intro and maybe some green screen effects like Fox News or something, that would be amazing.
We do. Yeah.
Folks, welcome. If you're watching us live, let us know. Hit us up in the comments. If you're watching the replay, also let us know. Just type in the word replay, put in a few emojis, use a GIF, whatever you want to do. What we would love to know by the end of this episode is, what was your biggest takeaway? What didn't you know from Chris before you watched this? We do have the one, the only, Mr. Chris Badgett, as in Inspector Gadget. He is the co-founder and the CEO of LifterLMS. And what I'd encourage you to do as we get cracking is to go to LifterLMS.com, because that's going to give you a little bit of insight into the, I believe it's a learning management system that Chris and the team look after over there. Chris is going to be talking on expanding your agency impact with high value LMS services. So if this is something that you do and you want to be better at, or you've been considering offering other services, then today you're in good luck. You're in good company even, because we have Chris. What we're going to do is we're going to round robin very quickly and introduce each one of us, and then we're going to hand over to the man himself. So let's start with Chris. Give us a quick 30-second. Who are you?
Sure. I'm Chris from LifterLMS. So I help WordPress professionals build better online learning environments. I'm also a homeschooling, work from home dad, and I'm kind of known for the cabin I run my business from, which is like in my backyard on our little farm here in Maine. So that's who I am.
Oh, that's so awesome. Pecha.
My name is Pecha Neri, and I am actually currently in Italy. I am a UX and design expert, working also as a Cloudways Maverick with my wonderful colleague, Lee Matthew Jackson.
Awesome. And I'm Lee Matthew Jackson. I'm the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast and a fellow Maverick. So, Chris, we're really excited to see what you have. I'll let you get your slides on screen ready, and then I will add you to the stream. Folks, if you have any questions during Chris's presentation, please do hit us up in the comments. We and the Cloudways team will be keeping our eye out. And Chris has very kindly said that we are okay to interrupt him should we want to with any questions that you folks may have. Chris, over to you.
Cool. So we got the first slide up with expand.
Yeah, I see that. Nice.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm super excited. WordPress is super near and dear to my heart. I ran an agency. I'm a course creator. We'll get into all that in a bit, but this talk is about how to expand your agency impact and drive business growth with high value LMS services. And if you don't know, LMS stands for Learning Management System. It goes by a lot of names, what people make with it. Some people call it a remote school, online course, a membership site, but we're going to get into all that in this talk. So I'm going to kind of frame in where we're at. I'm going to go over some trends, some use cases, and some tech. The use cases, the part which I'll remind you of when I get to, is really the big opportunity where I get into the 6 high-value niches that you can focus on. So I'm Chris, the co-founder and CEO of LifterLMS. We're about to hit our 7th birthday. So LifterLMS is a learning management system for WordPress. We've been at this for a while. We help a couple of different types of people, builders, like many of you on the call, WordPress professionals who build sites or even entire online businesses for clients. We do have some starters, people who kind of do it all themselves. And then what I call switchers, people who switch over to WordPress from places like Teachable or Kajabi or Udemy, kind of SaaS software solutions like that. So my WordPress journey, I used to run sled dogs in Alaska for a decade. When I left that after I had my first kid,
oh, cool.
I randomly started getting into WordPress, and I sold my first website for $300. And then over the course of 3 years, I ended up, selling more than I could deliver on. So I was constantly having to find like real designers, real developers. I've always just been a WordPress power user and somebody who could talk to clients and solve business problems with WordPress. Luckily, I found my business partner, Thomas Levy here, who is an awesome, incredible web developer, WordPress developer, coder, CTO extraordinaire, my partner in crime here. You often see my face on everything, but I could do none of that without Thomas. And together, we kind of smushed our agencies together after hiring each other to work inside each other's company. And pretty quickly, we ended up at the high end of the market, or higher end of the market, doing high-end membership sites and really going deep in this LMS niche, kind of by accident that we kind of ended up here, but we ended up developing a specialty here. So the big opportunity here is around focus. I was what I call an unfocused WordPress generalist. So I love the technology. I love business. I love marketing. I love design. So I was also really hungry, and I had young kids I needed to feed at home. So I'd take anything that came in the door. I did sites for psychics, auto body shops, restaurants, like auction companies, people selling music online. I just did it all. And then what ended up happening one day is I built an online course for myself with my wife in the organic gardening niche. And we started partnering with all these experts who were famous but knew nothing about tech and marketing. And we did this. That's where I started making money as a course creator with these organic gardening and permaculture experts. Through that, I started blogging about it. And that's like how I was able to build online course and the e-commerce systems and the marketing and everything. And all of a sudden, people started responding to my blog posts. And that's how I really kind of started to get focused in this niche. So the big trends that are going on all around us is online education is going mainstream. It's not new. It's been around for quite a while. Distance learning programs through the internet, telecommuting, distance master's programs, skills, certifications online. This stuff has been around for quite a while, but it's really recently, and not just during the pandemic times, but even before that, it's really been going mainstream in a much bigger way. It was projected, I forget the statistics source from here, to be a $300 billion industry by 2025. Those numbers have probably gone up. That's an old stat pre-COVID. Then we had the global pandemic shutdown or system disruption, which just kind of accelerated online learning in lots of levels, which we're going to go over in a lot of areas. And also people looking for other ways to create income from themselves while at home with a computer trying to figure things out. We've got internet connectivity on the rise. Many of us WordPress professionals, we can kind of take for granted that we have maybe a direct line internet or some decent internet speeds. But a lot of the world is still coming online, and it's accelerating, and the speeds are getting faster, and you can watch videos without buffering in rural areas and things like that. This acceleration is having a big impact, especially in online education, since a lot of the content is heavier, like videos.
I hadn't actually considered that either, because there's also the network that Elon Musk is putting up, isn't there? The satellites.
Yeah, the Starlink and all that.
Yeah. Which is,
also,
the world is a big place.
Those of us who are vaccinated, don't we get 5G anyway, just by existing?
Feature.
There's that as well, we're sorted.
Sorry, Chris.
So, yeah, the internet is huge. And I was talking to Jason, a friend of mine and a WordPress friend, and he was saying, he made a comment about how big, we don't really understand how big the internet and the world really is. And there's just so many people that are still yet to come online that us power users forget about. The tool accessibility is amazing. If you ask a kid these days what the -- job they want to be when they grow up is, they want to be a YouTuber. So being able to make content, make websites, even do this training we're doing right now with tools all around the world, people all around the world with content and our computers, it's never been more approachable from a tool perspective. So this is the big use case area for the LMS professional. If you're a WordPress generalist, I'm going to show you some use cases here, and then we can kind of unpack them a little bit. So the first is the online course or the course creator. This is a customer of ours. Her name is Esther, and she created a course to help military spouses become virtual assistants. And she ended up kind of creating a community. Some of these folks are kind of isolated. They move around a lot. And, they want to do something. They want to be able to work, and they need to work online. So she kind of took what she knew as being a virtual assistant and helped other people get into that industry through her course. And last I checked in with her, she was doing somewhere around $50,000 a month from just an online course. So helping a course creator, someone with super specific knowledge, and they have one course and it's their main thing, that's
Chris,
definitely a niche. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, can I just comment on the niche, because it's something that comes up very often in our shows. And I mean, talk about niching down. For anyone who's scared about that, think about how teaching military spouses to become VAs. I mean, and yet she's making that much money. I think that's astounding. It makes my head explode. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great point, Picha. I would say that I'm showing you use cases, but also pick a niche within the use case. So military spouse, I mean, there's niches within use cases is what I'm saying. So that's very astute of you to point out, Picha. The next is the membership site. So this is really popular. We get a little wrapped up in language like course, membership site, coaching program. There's nuances to these things. So this is one of my favorite customers. Her name is Melissa Love. She lives in the UK. She has a membership site for designers and marketers, and she fills this membership site full of online courses, webinar trainings with special experts. She has this calendar of events where they do these co-working sessions and office hours. She negotiates all these perks and discounts at other companies that her niche designers need. So this is a great niche, kind of like the coaching community niche. The next is the course marketplace. So this is Sean Hesketh from WP101. This is one of the largest WordPress education sites on the internet. It's powered by LifterLMS. Sean teaches the flagship course on WordPress there, but he brings in other experts to teach on things like WooCommerce and other tools. So this is an example of a course marketplace where it's a multi-instructor platform. You can kind of think of it, some people call it like a Udemy of X. So if you were to make a Udemy but for WordPress, or if you were to make a Udemy for auto mechanics, or a Udemy for life coaching or whatever, that's the course marketplace. The next is using training courses for education-based marketing and onboarding. So a lot of product companies and service companies look for ways to educate their customers in a more modern way. I don't know if you've ever opened a package or a box that has this really thin piece of white paper with terrible instructions on it.
All the time.
The new version
today, in fact.
The new version of that is actually an online course to help people learn how to use the grill, or even learn about a product so that they can feel confident to buy it. So this is a WordPress product company called Groundhog that uses courses to help with onboarding, create a partner program, and all kinds of different things. So courses aren't just for making money. And some of these clients, when you find an already successful business looking to scale and find efficiency through courses, or through training, or even to train their employees, which we'll talk about in the next one, these can be great clients. There's companies large and small using WordPress LMS software, not to make money, but just to train their team members, whether that's safety, or I'm thinking of another one in our customer base. I don't know if you've heard of, I forget which pizza company it is, but they actually have iPads set up at the pizza stations where they're training people through the course, like how to make this the various pizzas. And the sixth one, which has accelerated in recent times, is the remote school, which could either be the fully remote or the partially remote or the temporarily remote. There's a lot of activity in this area as well. So those are the 6 use cases, and within that, there's so many niches. And my big advice for you is to think about, if you try to, even being a WordPress generalist, that's rough. I've been there, but trying to be like even just a LMS person is kind of, you can still get more specific than that, because somebody who specializes in remote learning solutions for schools is kind of different from somebody who's helping speaker, author, coach people who don't want to get into the tech build their coaching business online. They're kind of different, even though they're using the same tools.
That's a real good point. Just real quick, Chris, my daughter's now been in online school for the last 3 years.
Okay.
We decided for health reasons, she had some major surgery, etc. So we decided initially to put her in homeschool, kind of online, and we'd support her. So it's like a full-on school online, and there are so many people involved with regards to, there are obviously all the teachers, there's all the technology that needs to be plugged into that, but also there's training the students as well, i.e. my daughter was extremely anxious and stressed out for the first few weeks trying to learn how to use the system, and I think they've since changed it at least twice. So if you're not built for looking after that many people and providing support for that many people, it is a very good example of picking the use case that your business can specialize in rather than trying to do all things. Because something like a school, there's an incredible amount of support, I believe, that they've had to rely on. Sorry, just to throw that in. Carry on, buddy.
Yeah, it's a good point. They're all different. They're all different. So here's the problem when you get into this, like into the LMS industry landscape. The big danger point that I'm sure anybody watching this who's been in WordPress for a while has ended up themselves or knows somebody who ended up with a software Frankenstein. Too many tools trying to get the job done that weren't really designed to work together, and you get conflicts. Another big problem with these types of clients is they're not monetizing as much as they could, or even at all, or they're missing opportunities. Content theft is a problem. There's things we can do about it. You can never 100% lock it down, but you definitely can. Low engagement, like course completion, like you were talking about, perhaps, Lee, some struggles with students, getting into the content, staying engaged, completing the training, enjoying the process is an issue. Mm-hmm. And then a lack of flexibility and getting trapped is a problem. You mentioned schools as an example. A lot of these folks end up more bureaucratic, top-down, Google Classroom kind of situation, whereas some of the WordPress in the LMS sense is more of a grassroots movement. It's more of a bottom-up. What we see in schools is we'll see an innovative teacher or professor or certifier who wants more control over the learning experience and wants the flexibility and customizability of WordPress. So that's something to keep in mind of where these folks are coming from. But the big unlock with a WordPress LMS system is creative freedom, selling and maximize revenue if the goal of the training is to be an income generator. Protect the content in a secure way that makes sense and doesn't confuse your users. Make engaging experiences for your learners, and connect to anything. As much as WordPress solves a lot, it's important to be an open system where we can connect to the other tools that we're already using or love to use, both inside of WordPress or outside. So the way we approach that at LifterLMS for setting up the various use cases is to be an all-in-one solution as much as we can, to focus on designing tools that are built around helping learners get results, not just transfer information. When we first started, one of the challenges of, quote, the membership site was that it was kind of this idea that you just have a paywall that people have to pay, and then once they get over the wall, they get all this content. And it wasn't really, the focus wasn't really on helping a learner get a result. It was more about, information products and controlling access. And then really to connect with anything that's a big idea of, if you're going to build one of these platforms, you want it to be open. So the top benefits of working in a tight WordPress LMS focus is you allow your clients to create, to sell, to engage, to protect, and to connect to all the other tools they want to use. So as an example, if we go into the creativity part, Lifter has a one-screen course builder that allows the WordPress professional or the client themselves to literally lay out an entire structure of material from one screen so that they can kind of structure the content. That's one of the big things that LMS does, is it allows you to not just have a membership site and control access, but also structure the content and manage it as it scales out, especially if you get into a membership site or a remote school with lots and lots of courses. You can create any training and business model. So we looked at like the simple online course or the multi-instructor online school. You can create a unique brand and design. I always just love seeing all these different sites. I'm sure anybody watching this that can relate of how much WordPress sites look different. So you can really build a unique brand and design. There's really no limit there. Compliance is a big deal. We did a lot with in the early stages of GDPR to make sure that, because Lifter handles a lot of data and student information and stuff like that. So making sure you're compliant and it's easy that people can agree to terms and conditions and everything is all built into the system. This is just an enrollment view of any kind of model you can think of, from like a one-time payment, lifetime access, to recurring payments, to trials, to free. It's all possible in how you want to do enrollment. So the selling, you can package and monetize. So like WordPress 101 does the marketplace, but also the all-in-one membership model together. So you could have a simple course, or you could have, all these different kind of packaging of learning experiences or degree programs. It's all possible. Using free courses is one of my ninja moves, especially if you're for a WordPress professional out there. The official Quick Start course for the LifterLMS community is simultaneously our #1 lead magnet, or way we generate leads, but it's also our #1 onboarding tool for new customers. So in my opinion, every professional should have some kind of like free training. I mean, ebooks and stuff are cool, checklists and all this, and I've got some of those too. But a free mini course can be super powerful, whether you're onboarding your clients, showing them some like marketing tips or some design tips, or even getting them to do the work you need them to do to set them up to be a perfect fit client for you. These using free courses to generate leads and encourage sales are super powerful. You can also start structuring in multiple benefits like coaching and community. We've got some like private content features for coaches and our own social learning features as well. You can offer recurring revenue, which means recurring value. So the way I like to teach course creation, or if you're working with a client who's like a coach or trying to do a membership site that's based on learning and training, is I like to put the this is the way I approach business too, is I don't put my product at the center of my company. I put my customer at the center of my company, and then I surround them with what they need. So what do they need? Do they need webinars? They need templates? They need software? Do they need ideas? Do they need access? Do they need a short list of WordPress professionals that if they just want to hire somebody? that's the way I like to think about recurring revenue. Is even if you only have one course, if you create like community, if you create like a monthly coaching call or office hours that you don't even have to prepare for, if you add private coaching, these are ways to create recurring revenue without necessarily getting on the content treadmill forever. I'm a big fan of, validation and pre-selling ideas. So Lifter has some capabilities built in so that, if you've ever worked with a client who has a lot of ideas and it's hard to get launched, we've built it so that you can put up like a course sales page, maybe lay out the curriculum and everything, really in an hour or less, or a day, or however long it takes. But then you can pre-sell that with a future start date. And there's nothing more motivating to a client to have like, all right, we've pre-sold some that start in a month. I need that content. So, anyways, that's a nice feature. Engagement is cool. This is what I call the results revolution. So learning isn't just content. It's not just information products. And if you go back into your life outside of the internet or technology, some of our best learning experiences happen in groups. And figuring out ways to do social learning, either on the website or on a Zoom or even in person, can really accelerate the effectiveness of the learning. Understanding your learners. This is one of the big things that makes an LMS different from a basic membership site or just content site, is really the analytics and the data. So there's a lot of reporting and just data where you can drill in and look at who's winning, who's falling behind, where's the average people, where's your content failing, like where are people getting stuck, what are people learning through quizzes or micro quizzes and things like that. Super powerful. You create an engaging experience by actually understanding your people, not just making assumptions all the time. Progress control is another one. I'm not a huge fan of just like dripping everything or I like to give people flexibility to kind of move around at their own pace, but you can control like forward progress. You can say, hey, you can't take this course until you take that course, and so on. We got some gamifications, bunch of like kind of basically achievement badges that you can design. And I've seen, sites for kids do this well. But I've also seen very professional sites have fun with achievement badges. It's one of the fun things about gamification. Protecting the content. Like I said, you can pre-sell a course and people can check out the curriculum, but it's locked down. Individual user accounts is important because everybody has a different experience of their website, so they need their own user account. All the privacy controls we were talking about, you want to protect that both as like a business owner and as an educator. And then you want to connect to the tools that you're already using. So Lifter's designed to be open. We directly integrate with a lot of tools, like many of the form plugins. And there's a lot of great themes out there that have built LifterLMS features into their themes and whatnot, but it's also an open system. I mean, I love the innovation I see in WordPress professionals. Like there's this great tool for making interactive content called H5P. And there's a free WordPress H5P embedder plugin. And H5P itself is kind of like WordPress. It's open source, it's free, it's very community driven, and people are just building amazing stuff. So that's what's great about having an open system for an education platform, not just some software tool.
I thought I was a geek. I'd never heard of that. I'm checking that out right now. H5P.
H5P. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted to say, yeah, same here.
Yeah, that's it's cool. There's like in the e-learning world, people come from all these different angles. Like some people come from, like me, I come from like a WordPress, an online business guy, expert industry kind of guy. Then there's what I call the e-learning crowd, which use all these authoring tools like Adobe Captivate and all these all these different tools for making interactive content. They're called, also known as instructional designers. So the cool thing about this online learning niche is there's all these different, it's both cool and a challenge. I call it the 5 hats problem. You have to be an expert at something, a technologist, a community builder, an entrepreneur, and a teacher. So it's challenging to wear all 5 of those hats, which is why I'm excited to do this presentation with you today. Is if you're a WordPress professional, a lot of people need help. They want help. They've got money to pay for help, for somebody to help them with the technology, because they're so busy juggling all these other hats. And if you're watching this and you are you're more the teacher, the expert yourself, there are WordPress professionals out there that can help you. We have a short list of LifterLMS experts. It's a free service we provide because people are constantly hitting us up for like, hey, do you know anybody who can help me? Some of the projects we see that are most successful are not solo acts, that people work with other people. And then on the connection front, Lifter, as an example, is listed on the Zapier app directory, which helps you easily connect to other tools. People do all kinds of stuff between a WordPress LMS and Google Sheets and email and calendars and all kinds of stuff. People can design whatever experience they want. We've also got a robust REST API. It's something we've invested a lot in. It's not something you see from the front of the site, but we wanted to make it easier for other developers and product creators to extend Lifter and build even mobile apps and things like that. And I just wanted to ask you if you can see yourself using an LMS in your agency business. If you've thought about it, one of the cool things that happened to me just in my WordPress journey was, 1, focusing on LMS, 2, really learning the ins and outs of e-commerce, mostly with WooCommerce. With those skills, it was much easier to find work and to find folks that could afford work. So just throwing that idea out there. And the LMS, the learning and the education market is so massive. It's so huge. It's almost beyond our comprehension. Even just like companies who are trying to train their employees. Like I was talking to a user the other day who helped Delta Airlines with LifterLMS. They set up a flight attendant training thing using WordPress and LifterLMS. Even just that one niche of like Fortune 500 company internal training, like that's a whole thing right there. And if you look at the expert industry as an example, this is a good one. It's a good place, like if you're really used to working with small businesses or one-on-one clients and stuff. You know, if you go into the health niche or the business niche or the relationships niche, like parenting and stuff like that, there's even just specializing in helping, like, let's say, parenting experts, build online courses and membership sites. Like that's a whole niche in and of itself. So that's what I got for you. I do have a coupon code. If you use coupon code Cloudways, you're going to get 15% off of LifterLMS. And I want to thank you, Lee and Picha, for having me, and all of you out there listening for hearing me out. Our mission is to lift up others through education. And thanks for letting me be on the stage and do what I love to do best, and get excited and chat about online learning.
Dude, that's awesome. So folks, remember, you can use that coupon code Cloudways for 15% off. We do have some questions as well, Chris, if you're happy to hang out with us for a little while. And I just would love, before we do that, just to kind of share a few of the kind of key takeaways or the things that have really jumped out at me from your presentation. The first thing was those 6 different use cases, as it were, for an LMS are things I hadn't really considered. I'd obviously considered creating a course. I hadn't really considered marketplaces. I hadn't considered internal training. And I love that point you made. In fact, I wrote it down and put it on the screen whilst you and Peter were talking, which is pick a niche within the use case. There are all these use cases, but equally there are niches. In fact, I've even heard the phrase, there is a niche within a niche. So as you can continue to break that down and build up your expertise in that area. The other thing that I really like was your ninja move. So we threw that one in whilst you were presenting. Your ninja move, a free course is a great way to generate leads. It doesn't have to be a downloadable checklist. It doesn't have to be a PDF. It could be something of value. Somebody who does that is John Lee Dumas with his free podcasting course as an example, which is something that you have to work through as an online course, and it's completely free to access. One of the things, again, that you mentioned as well was you're not limited, are you, to the blend of use case? You're not limited to one use case. You can blend them together. So you talked about WP 101 offering direct courses and or membership in a kind of marketplace setup, etc. So you've got a mix here of options. And I guess if you're watching the replay or if you're watching live, do have a think to that question from Chris. Could you see yourself helping and empowering people around the world to set up learning environments? Because those use cases mean we probably know somebody who needs our help. I certainly know companies here in the local area of Northamptonshire who need to put on internal training. I know experts and coaches, again, here in Northamptonshire who want to go into online learning, especially now during COVID, where they're not able to have physical events and still want to provide some sort of value. So they're looking online. There are so many different ways that we could provide value. And again, the amount of support that's out there in the WordPress community continues to blow my mind. And Chris, you certainly picked the right platform to develop your LMS on. And I'm totally pumped for you. I think you said Delta Airlines or some airlines have used your platform to train their team. That is phenomenal. I'd have been floating if I'd have heard that all day. So we had a question in from James. Peach, I think you've had the question in from James.
Yeah. So James was asking, that he's saying that he's working with a coach at the moment. He's researching on niching with business coaches and personal development. What would your advice be? Letting you know first, Chris, that both Lee and I had a little bit of a word of warning because Lee was pointing out that it should be something that you like. If you're not interested, you shouldn't do it. But also, coaches, I find, are a tough niche unless they're high end. That's my experience. Maybe you have a different one. Anyway, What would be your advice to James?
I love this question. And by the way, I'm a big personal development guy. I'm always working on my habits and everything like that. If I had to pick one, though, I would go with a business coaching niche because they're already generating revenue. And the way I look at it, I used to kind of be not really into business at all. Like my background is in anthropology and social science. I've never taken a business class. And but over time, I discovered that really entrepreneurship is like this vehicle for change in the world and to like add value and help people. And I had a total mindset shift. So for me, I actually think you can leverage things you like about personal development inside of business. But I agree with you, Picha. I've worked with clients that have been challenging. My advice is to focus on, if I had to pick one, I'd pick business over personal, even though I really love personal development. But in either case, I would look for somebody who is, if you can find people that are already making money, maybe not online, but in this profession already, those clients are going to be easier to work with as opposed to somebody who's looking to switch from something completely different or for the first time as their first business start coaching. So that would be my advice. This is why courses are really powerful. I would create a free course to attract leads. I would create a paid course for beginners that haven't made money with their expertise yet, whether that's personal development or business coaches on how to build their site themselves or whatever. But then the clients, my third offer would be for people that are established. So in marketing, we would call that a funnel filter, like how we filter, we qualify the lead to the ones that we work with directly. And there's a simple framework I'll share with you that I've used to think about this, which is the free course is the DIY, the do it yourself. There can be a middle offer, like the paid course. Maybe it has an office hour or something, some component, maybe a little bit of coaching. That's like a done with you. And then your service offering is the DFY, the done for you. So if you can do those 3 layers of packaging, sometimes that helps people work within the various stages within a market.
I believe you have a very pertinent follow-up question as well there, Peter.
Okay. It's not actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it to the end. It's a question. I need to hear about this, but I'm going to leave it to the end because I do have a serious question, Lee, whether you believe it or not.
True.
So this is a bit of a technical question, and it's because I create courses. I completely agree about the free courses. All the examples that you've given are perfect. Is what I'm trying constantly to implement with the marketing, have the right measure of free or package things in a way that they give real value and so on. So yeah, I think sterling advice. But one thing that you hear a lot about, and I have spent a lot of time, LifterLMS is famous for being one of the best, if not the best WordPress plugin because it's so customizable and everything. But one thing that I've heard a lot is that if you host your own courses on a WordPress install, then you will run into server issues. You will have to sort of make sure that your website is on its own dedicated server and that you know your way around that, and that, in order to keep it lean and fast. Would you agree with this? Is this something that you think might be a problem as you grow too much, or what would you suggest? Do we need a developer on board? What would you say?
This is a great question. We get this a lot. The first thing I like to do is to acknowledge that if somebody is just getting started or bootstrapping or trying to keep costs down, there's no reason you shouldn't start on the most economical hosting you can find. If you have budget and you know you're going to kind of come in out of the door and you may out of the gate, and you may have thousands or tens of thousands of students and stuff like this, you need to get on like a managed WordPress host. Like Cloudways has great hosting there.
See what you did there, mate. That was cool.
And like I also know some like really big sites who have they actually have a DevOps engineer to help with that. So the first thing is to right size the solution. The best hosts you can kind of come in the door for as cheap as possible, especially if it's that you or your client has we're just starting from ground zero. We've got nobody in here yet. But then the hosting company can just scale up with you as your needs increase. So, yeah, that's my advice. If money's no object, I would prefer that somebody start on a quality managed WordPress host, not kind of at the lower end of the market. If money is tight, just start at the lowest price point. You'll be okay. And once if your site starts slowing down, you'll know that, okay, maybe it's time to make a change. And as you design your project, think through that so that, a lot of entrepreneurs, they sometimes underprice their offer. They don't take into account all their expenses. Mm-hmm. So if your server resources need to scale as you get bigger and bigger, just make sure that your pricing is, if you're running into problems, you should be making money that it's no big deal. Okay, I'm going from $10 a month to $30 a month. Or maybe I'm getting really big and I'm starting to get up at $100 a month or something like that. But at that point, so much money is coming in that it just makes sense. So that's part of that's a pricing thing. But WooCommerce, LifterLMS, other like heavier WordPress applications can run on lower hosting. So
that's so true. I love this. I think you said right size the solution.
Yeah.
I've put it on screen. It's such a cool way of phrasing it. And you are completely right. I mean, I've used third-party solutions because of this problem. I've worried that if I host it myself, it's going to be a headache for me, despite the fact I've got a perfectly good team of developers, etc., who could do the heavy lifting. But I've always been concerned that I don't want to be dealing with client issues where they can't get access to the data, yada, yada, yada. So I've let these kind of horror stories, as it were, scare me off. And then I've ended up using these third parties, which are good, but there are a lot of limitations. So you were talking about things like gamification. I think I saw somewhere during the presentation as well, being able to kind of go through, you've got your analytics, all of those really important key areas are completely missing from the third-party system that we were using. And we're also spending $100 a month, and then that had to scale too. So as the more members the clients were adding, the higher that cost overall was getting. And we had a wonderful kind of, I won't say who the system is, that would be unfair, but there's also this amazing sounding roadmap. And, the roadmap always seems to be coming soon, but never quite there. And that became a real frustration to us. We didn't have things like an integration with Zapier. We didn't have all those extra things that would allow us to get outside of the system that we thought we wanted to be safe with. What we have found is that kind of success of starting small, doing the basics really well, and then picking a decent enough package. You can start with a 2 GB server or a 4 GB server, for example, with a basic LMS site or a basic WordPress site, as long as you know how many visitors you're getting or projected to getting, and also as long as you know how many members you are aiming for. If this is something you're doing for clients as well, one of the mistakes we made was not pricing in the number of members or the amount of courses that were going to be involved or the amount of data that was needed. And we were once left a few years ago carrying the can for hosting. Our client was growing phenomenally. They had thousands of visits. They actually hit 1 million hits once, and we were still serving their server and paying the higher prices for all of that hosting and all of that bandwidth, whilst our client was in a fixed term contract with us and had to pay no extra. So there's quite a lot of of lessons kind of built into that alone. So the moment you said right size the solution, I think that's my new biggest takeaway from today. Thanks for letting me vent.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, we do have something we're working on with Cloudways directly to make that even easier. So I can't say what it is yet, but we have something in the works coming soon.
Right, I'm going to go and go and poke people to go and find out what that is. Peachy, you've got to follow up.
I was going to say, you're going to grill everyone. So that's really helpful, Chris. Thank you very much. So would you say that there are cases where a third-party platform is more useful? Because I have to say, I have been through the whole thing. I've done it. I built a LifterLMS site for my courses. Then someone I trust very much said, no, it's too much. You're going to run into issues. So I just sort of followed and went to. But what's been happening is that I'm on, I think, my 4th platform, because it's never quite right. Either it goes too expensive, or it doesn't do what I want, or I do UX. That's what I talk about. So it's very important that certain things work in it. But so I guess that it's a little bit like the eternal quest for the perfect tool. But yeah. I am trying. I guess I'm not even sure whether I'm just ranting or asking a question, but because this is incredibly interesting to me, because the platform I'm with right now has been very, very helpful because it has taken a problem away. But I'm now thinking that I might get to a point where, once again, I want to do things my way. So would you say that, obviously you have a product that you want to sell, clearly, but how do you feel let's say, I want to hear what where you think your product is positioned in relation to the many platforms that are there, Membervault, which is my current one, Podia, Thinkific, all of those. what? Yes.
That's a great question. And to your case specifically, have you heard of Melissa Love?
You're on mute, Peter.
Yes, I am indeed. Okay. You mentioned her earlier, and when you did, I was like, yes, I think I know this lady. I think I do.
Melissa Love, just the marketing fix. She's a designer. She goes all out, and she's made WordPress work, and she's been doing it for a very long time. And she does her training. She's somebody you should probably connect with. Her program's called the Marketing Fix. Is the membership site she uses. So the SaaS solution, the Podia, the Teachable, the Thinkific, the Kajabi, you have less tech headache, but you're totally trapped in terms of feature set. It doesn't mean you can't build a viable business or even a great looking site, but you just give up the open-endedness of WordPress and the flexibility. So really that's the trade-off. You take on more tech responsibility and headaches when you do WordPress, but it comes with like so much more power. And then from the design perspective specifically, this is like really the crux, the hardest part of the move with WordPress is Lifter, as an example, as a plugin, is predominantly a functionality shop. Like structured content, reporting, e-commerce, membership restrictions, progress tracking, all this stuff is like functionality. What we're seeing happen now is, and especially over the past 3 years, there have been some great themes come around or really adding a lot of design flexibility to Lifter. And we're seeing designers just kind of roll their own with, if it doesn't do it, if it doesn't look good out of the box, they just force it to do what they want it to do or to look the way they want it to look. So I know coaches that are like 100% happy with Kajabi and love it. And they're like, that's my platform. And that market is actually probably bigger than the people that are willing and able to take on the responsibility to do it themselves or build a team to kind of have that power. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is ease of use versus getting exactly what you want.
I suppose there's also a case for saying it's okay to validate with something like Kajabi if you want to validate the idea and you don't want to invest the extra time in getting something to look perfect, because as easy as it might seem to say install Lifter, it might be quick. If we've got the control, this is me now talking, I'm going to want to make it look good. So it's now going to take me hours because I know I have the control. Whereas if I'm using a third party and I want to quickly, validate something, there may be a use case if I'm a small business to just going in that direction. For example, I will often have clients come to us asking for a website. They want to validate an idea, and I tell them to go to Squarespace and then come back when they validated their idea. So there is no shame in using third parties, but there is going to be a point, isn't there, where you're going to need that flexibility, the multiple use cases, the control. Get the Melissas or the designers involved and just create and own your own ecosystem, which is phenomenal. Well, we are coming into land, and Peter really wants to know, and I want to know too.
Yes. You need to tell us a little bit more about the dogs, the sledge, and Alaska. I mean this. I am fascinated by Alaska. I can't wait to go see the whales. I really want to go there, and I am just, please.
This is all we've been talking about in the back office.
I'm not from there.
You're not from there, okay? Because I also love Maine. A really good friend of mine from the UK just bought a house in Maine, so I'll see you in Maine soon. But please, dogs, sledge,
all right.
Alaska. White Fang. I need to hear.
I'll give you the short version. Like I said, I had a background in anthropology. I wanted to become an ethnographic filmmaker. There was only one program in the world, or two in the country. I got rejected from both of them. So I said, oh, well, I guess I'm going to go to Alaska and run sled dogs. So I got a job on a glacier that you can only get to by helicopter, where I would take people on sled dog rides.
Oh my word.
I did that for almost 10 years. I ended up managing the company. It's where I learned my management skills and everything. And my boss there, I helped him train for the Iditarod sled dog race, which is the big 1,000-mile race across Alaska.
Wow.
And my first WordPress blog was about outdoor leadership. So that was something I learned up there. I met my wife up there. We worked at the same place, and we built a cabin and lived when we weren't on the glacier in a little cabin there. So that's how I got into dogs and how that transitioned to WordPress. After I had my first kid, I decided to, make a change and come back down to the I wanted to work from home too. I spent a lot of time in helicopters and in remote areas and stuff like that. And once I had a baby, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit.
But I mean, he didn't do it for 6 months just for the hell of it. He did it for 10 years. I am blown away. This is just fascinating. The number of stories you must have.
There's a lot.
So great.
I'm just annoyed, mate, that I didn't actually get that out of you in the podcast I did with you like years ago. I'm going to need to get you back on just so that I can find out more about leadership. Check your email later.
And I'm sure you can learn from the dogs so much, and let alone, I mean, the sort of the spiritual challenge that living in such remote places must be in and of itself, really.
Yeah, there's a lot you can learn from dogs and from nature, and totally agree.
Well, folks, hopefully we can encourage Chris to come back and tell us all of those things. I just want to remind us of a few of those key takeaways before we wrap up. One of the lessons I learned very early on with 5G, Starlink, and other projects, the learning community around the world is growing. And remember that question that Chris asked us near the end of his presentation: can you see yourself helping the learning community with an LMS? That wasn't the exact question, but you get the idea. Key takeaway for me was pick a niche within the use case. There are multiple use cases for an LMS. So we talked about internal training, external training, course marketplace, so on and so forth. So if you didn't get them all, I encourage you, watch the replay, go rewind, go check all of those out. Another one, if you have your own site, you're looking for lead magnets, you can create a simple course. This was one of those ninja moves that was dropped just as an offhand comment by Chris. We have here as well a reminder that you can use an LMS with a blend of use cases. So you don't just have to do one thing. You can offer your content in different ways to suit the learners. And finally, for me at least, one of the important things was ensuring that we have some form of analytics on the LMS that we're using to allow us to provide a better learner experience. The way that Chris has shared with us today is that you, as the agency owner, as the freelancer, as the web designer, web developer, you have an amazing opportunity here to provide a learning management system in so many different use cases around the world. So take a look at your niche, take a look at the people within your industry. Do they have a problem that you might be able to solve with an LMS? And is this a potential service that you could add to your business or even pivot to? It's a phenomenal journey. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing that with us. A quick reminder, there's a little ticker at the bottom here to remind you that for 15% off at LifterLMS, use the code Cloudways, which is pretty damn cool. And if you want to find out more about Chris and about LifterLMS, then head on over to, it's quite easy actually, LifterLMS.com. Before we go, Chris, how can people connect with you on social?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Badgett. That's where I'm the most active. So awesome. check me out there.
Peacher, how about you?
I am at Peacher on Twitter. I'm a lurker. I'm shy, but I'm sort of bit more on that. But at LinkedIn, I like very much at the moment.
Awesome.
Picha Neri on LinkedIn.
Picha Neri, LinkedIn. I'm on agencytrailblazer.com via the podcast. You can connect there. Remember, we have the Cloudways user group. You can check that out over on Facebook. So come and join us in there. We also have the agency partner program that you can apply for and get extra benefits. You can check that out on cloudways.com/en/agency. We'll pop a link in there. Check that out. There are a whole lot of extra benefits that you might be able to get as an agency using Cloudways. And again, remember that coupon is rocking at the bottom of the screen. Chris, you're a legend. Thank you so much for your time. All that's left for us to do is wave. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you soon.